Adrianna held the photograph tightly, her hands almost trembling. And Shawn looked strangely sad. Not guilty, not nervous. Sad. Like someone watching another person rediscover an old wound. Were we really friends? The question came out softer than she intended. Shawn smiled. A small smile. The kind that carries both warmth and grief. We were. No hesitation. No uncertainty. No doubt. And somehow, that certainty frightened her more than anything else. Because if Shawn remembered everything, then he already knew the truth she was still searching for. The memory returned with greater force. This time, it refused to stop. Rain hammered the windshield. Lightning split the sky. Children screamed. The bus slid across wet pavement. And then, everything happened at once. The tires lost traction. The driver lost control. The world tilted sideways. Glass exploded. Seats tore loose. Metal screamed. And chaos consumed everything. The kind of chaos that changes lives forever. The kind of chaos that divides existence into two parts. Before and after. Then came the part Adrianna had never remembered. The part hidden beneath years of fantasy, years of achievement, years of avoidance. She saw herself, young, terrified, trapped, unable to move, smoke filling the air, fear overwhelming reason. And through the chaos, someone came back for her. Not a counselor, not an adult, not a rescuer. Shawn. Young Shawn. Scared himself, yet moving toward danger anyway. He freed her, pulled her forward, refused to leave her behind. Because that's what friends do. Especially the best ones. Even when it costs them everything. The archive room felt colder than ever, as if the building itself knew what she was about to find. Folders covered the table. Newspaper clippings. Accident reports. Camp records. And finally, one document. One piece of paper. One devastating truth. Death certificate. Name, Shawn Walker. Adrianna stared, certain she was reading it wrong, certain there had to be some mistake. Another Shawn Walker, another accident, another explanation. Anything but this. But every document told the same story. Every record confirmed the same fact. Every page pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Shawn Walker died 20 years ago. Fear can make people run. Or it can make them demand answers. This time, Adrianna chose answers. The sanctuary was empty. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her. And there he was. Shawn. Standing calmly near the altar. Exactly where she expected him. Exactly where he shouldn't have been. Because dead people don't attend church meetings. Dead people don't drink coffee. Dead people don't hold conversations. So who was he? Her voice cracked as she held up the death certificate. "Who are you?" The question echoed through the sanctuary. And for the first time, Shawn looked tired. Not frightened. Not defensive. Just tired. Like someone carrying a burden for far too long. Then Shawn said something that made no sense. At least, not at first. You remembered the wrong ending. The words lingered. Strange. Confusing. Impossible. The sanctuary began blending with memory. Past and present colliding. Reality and recollection overlapping. And suddenly, Adrianna realized something. She remembered the accident, but only part of it. Only the beginning. Only the trauma. Never the conclusion. Never what came afterward. And perhaps the ending she created was easier to live with than the truth. Because the truth demanded healing. And healing demands change. That night, the dream kingdom returned. Larger than ever before. More magnificent. More terrifying. Castles stretched toward the sky. Moonlit cities glowed in the distance. Entire worlds existed within its borders. Worlds Adrianna had spent years creating. Years expanding. Years hiding inside. At the center stood the throne. And upon it sat the dark figure. But this time, she truly saw him. Not as a stranger, not as a villain, not even as a monster, but as something far more unsettling. A reflection, a creation, an embodiment. Every fantasy, every escape, every imagined romance, every emotional refuge, all combined into one figure, one presence, one kingdom, one prison. The dark figure rose slowly. His voice echoed through the endless halls. "He's trying to take you away from me." For years, Adrianna thought the dark figure was pursuing her. But now, she understood. He wasn't chasing her. He was protecting his kingdom. Because if Adrianna chose reality, everything he represented would begin to disappear. And for the first time, the true battle became clear. This wasn't a battle between good and evil. Not entirely. It was a battle between illusion and truth. Between safety and healing. Between fantasy and life. And the choice was coming. Very soon. For years, Adrianna believed her daydreams were the problem. The fantasies. The imaginary romances. The worlds she disappeared into when reality felt too heavy. But now, standing in the heart of the kingdom she had built, a beautiful bandage. A creative bandage. A comforting bandage. But a bandage nonetheless. The dark figure walked beside her. Not threatening. Not angry. Almost gentle. As though he were guiding her through a museum of her own heart. Around them floated memories. Lonely evenings. Childhood disappointments. Moments she smiled while secretly hurting. Moments she succeeded while secretly struggling. Moments she served everyone else while neglecting herself. Every fantasy had started somewhere. Every escape had an origin. Every imagined love story had been built upon a real longing. And beneath all of it was a little girl who feared being abandoned. A little girl who feared not being enough. A little girl who learned to survive by creating worlds she could control. She began to understand something profound. The dreams were never the wound. They were the bandage. Then came the memory. The one she had avoided for 20 years. The one her mind had locked away. The one that explained everything. The bus crash played again, but this time, it continued. Young Shawn pulled her to safety. The rain poured. The wreckage groaned. Smoke filled the air. Adrianna escaped. She survived. And then, Shawn turned back. Someone else was still inside. Someone needed help. And Shawn, being Shawn, went back. Because that's who he was. The boy who thought of others first. The friend who stayed. The heart that gave. The memory slowed. Every second stretched endlessly. The collapsing metal. The falling debris. The impossible choice. And then, he was gone. Tears filled Adrianna's eyes. Not because she finally remembered, but because she finally understood. For 20 years, she had carried a question she never allowed herself to ask. Why him? Why not me? Why did I survive? And somewhere deep inside, without realizing it, she stopped fully living. Because part of her believed she didn't deserve to. The dream kingdom faded, and in its place, a sanctuary of light appeared. Peaceful, quiet, beautiful. And there stood Shawn. Not mysterious anymore, not confusing. Simply Shawn. The boy who became her friend. The friend who became her rescuer. The rescuer who never truly left her heart. Adrianna looked at him through tears. Why are you here? The question carried years of grief, years of confusion, years of longing. Shawn smiled. That familiar smile. Warm, patient, steady. To help you remember. Not just the accident, not just the tragedy, but the life that followed. The life she had been given. The life she was meant to embrace. For so long, Adrianna had focused on what was lost. She never learned how to honor what remained. The dark figure wasn't finished. Not yet. The kingdom transformed around them. Suddenly, everything Adrianna had ever wanted appeared. Every fantasy, every dream, every impossible romance. every perfect outcome. There were no disappointments here, no grief, no awkward conversations, no rejection, no uncertainty, no heartbreak, only perfection. Beautiful, comfortable, predictable perfection. The kind of perfection that asks for nothing. The kind of perfection that never grows. The kind of perfection that isn't real. The dark figure extended his hand. You never have to hurt again. And for a moment, just a moment, the offer was tempting, because healing is difficult. Reality is messy. People disappoint us. Life wounds us. But fantasy? Fantasy asks for nothing. And that's exactly why it can never truly satisfy. Two worlds stood before her. Fantasy, reality. Dreams, truth. Escape, growth. The kingdom behind her shimmered with impossible beauty. The world ahead offered no guarantees. Only real people, real relationships, real faith, real healing. The dark figure spoke first. Choose perfection. Then Shawn, quietly, steadily. Choose truth. The entire universe seemed to hold its breath, and Adrianna finally understood. Healing was never about destroying imagination. It was about refusing to let imagination replace life. I choose reality. The words echoed like thunder, not because they were loud, but because they were true. And truth has power. The moment she chose, everything changed. The castles began to crumble. The moonlit cities shattered into light. The imagined lovers disappeared. The endless dreamscapes dissolved. An entire empire collapsed. Not because it was evil, but because it was never meant to rule her. And with him, the kingdom disappeared. The dark figure watched as his kingdom vanished, and for the first time, he looked sad. Not monstrous, not hateful, sad. Because even unhealthy things often begin as attempts to protect us. The fantasies had protected her once, shielded her, comforted her, helped her survive. But survival and living are not the same thing. And eventually, every refuge must become a doorway, or it becomes a prison. The dark figure faded into light. Morning sunlight filled the sanctuary. The storm was gone. Peace settled over everything. Adrianna stood beside Shawn, one final time. No mysteries remained. No secrets remained. Only gratitude. Only love. Only goodbye. Will I see you again? The question barely escaped her lips. Shawn smiled, a smile filled with affection and peace. The kind of peace that comes from a story finally reaching its proper ending. You don't need me anymore. Tears rolled down Adrianna's cheeks. Not tears of sorrow, not entirely. Sometimes tears arrive because healing finally does. Funny, isn't it? How we spend years praying for freedom and then cry when the chains finally fall away. Shawn's form began glowing. Light surrounded him. And before he disappeared, he spoke one final sentence. Now live. And then he was gone. Several weeks later, Adrianna stood before a crowded conference. Hundreds of people listened. Many carried struggles of their own. Different struggles. Different wounds. But the same human longing. To be seen. To be loved. To be free. She shared her story. Not as someone who had all the answers. Not as someone who had achieved perfection. But as someone learning. Growing. Healing. She spoke about imagination. About loneliness. About grief. About faith. About choosing reality. Again and again. Every day. One decision at a time. Her parents watched proudly. Dr. Hannah Reeves smiled from the audience. Elder Benjamin nodded quietly. And Adrianna realized something. She was no longer carrying the weight alone. She never truly had to. As applause filled the room, she glanced toward the back. And for a brief moment, she thought she saw Shawn, standing near the exit, smiling. The same calm smile she remembered. The same steady presence. Then he was gone. Perhaps he had never been there. Or perhaps some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only treasured. Outside, the sun rose above the horizon. Golden light painted the world. A new day. A new chapter. A new beginning. Adrianna found the old camp photograph resting on her windshield. She turned it over. And there, written in familiar handwriting, were two simple words. Now live. She smiled through tears. And for the first time in a very long time, she stepped forward. Not into a dream, not into a fantasy, not into a story she imagined, but into the beautiful, imperfect, God-given life waiting for her. And that made all the difference.
Thank you for staying with the story to the end, and remember to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a story.